So I think we can start with the new publisher. It's got a story that I wanted all of us to focus on. It says, pay workers hourly, not fixed monthly salary. And that's the Fair Wages and Salary Commission boss proposing. And so employees across all sectors in Ghana should be paid based on the number of hours they work, rather than giving fixed monthly salaries irrespective of hours worked. That's according to Dr. George Smith Graham, who's the acting chief executive officer of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. Now, he believes the hourly payment system will improve the incomes of casual workers and bring more fairness into the nation's wages. And he says this would also ensure fair compensation for casual and low-income workers across Ghana. And this is something that our friend Eugene Odami, who is at NAFTI, has been proposing all the time. And whenever he sent messages, he's talked about the need to pay people hourly. Well, let's see.
In fact, shall we come back and talk a bit more about
We'll come back and talk about this. But also on the front page of the new publisher, it says, Doomsaw is back, fear grips NDC MPs, and man 36 jailed 120 years for armed robbery. That's it for the new publisher.
And I have the Ghanaian Point, I have the Daily Guide, and the BNFT. Unfortunately, none of the newspapers have the flooding story on their front pages, so we'll bring those to you online. But I'll start with the BNFT. Mandatory licensing for scrap dealers by year end. I remember the stories we discussed last week, the theft of public accessories on our roads, street lights, signages, and all that because of these scrap metal dealers. Now, we want to license them, and that's one of the things we want to do to check on the thefts and the illegal trade of scrap metal. And that story is on the front page of the BNFT. More stories: AI innovation and youth at heart of AMC TCON Africa 2025 agenda. You know, there's a lot of talk about youth and AI in our country. Fuel bill to reach $1 billion in 2025. That's also something that is coming up. The story says Ghana could spend more than $1 billion on liquid fuel to keep its thermal power plants running in 2025. And Minister for Energy John Jinapor has said, as rising electricity demand is expected to grow by 300 megawatts this year. You mentioned the Doomsaw story, and now we are being told how much you'll spend on fuel because of the demand in electricity.
The energy minister keeps putting out figures. We need to spend this, we have that, we have that, we have that. See, leaders, John Jinapor, leaders solve problems. Leaders, they solve problems. They don't explain them. We know the problems. In fact, you knew the problem before you were made energy minister, because when you were in opposition, you knew these problems. And one of those who could actually indicate, the load that was being shared, because Gridco would actually indicate that. You don't get into power and all of a sudden that should change. Solve the problem.
But for those of us who have actually, listened to the problem he explained, it's money, isn't it?
Find the money.
It's money. Find the money.
Yeah, you don't.
So what should we do about it?
I can give you money. You are with the finance minister. Get the money. Fix it. The News Center says Ghana's digital identity in focus at ID for Africa 2025. Ochehene donates 50,000 to Amajay Skills Training. Government to begin design and feasibility study for a new city. And so for those of you who've been asking questions about that, that's because, look, the president has talked about the need to create a new city. And he says that as a permanent fix to decongest Accra, the government will soon begin the design and feasibility study for a new city. He said, that's according to President Mahama. He said some of the government offices and agencies should be moved out of Accra to the new city. And there's a quote attributed to him. I believe that this new city will be located somewhere on the Accra Plains from Bundase, straddling across Greater Accra, Eastern Region, and Volta regions. The city will straddle 3 regions. And President Mahama said in his remarks, add a grand number of chiefs and people of Dodowa. So that's it. That's the president.
There's only one road that leads to it, and we are all going to get stuck in traffic trying to get to and from it, what is the point of it?
Well, I'm sure they'll design.
Well, look at it. When it comes to the new city, it's something I've been following for years and something I've been thinking about. And I love the fact that the president wants to build a legacy project of a new city. But within Greater Accra, Eastern Region voter, I think that shouldn't be it. We should go up north. If you've studied the geography of Ghana very well, you know that the East Gonja area is a very nice area, flat plains, largely unoccupied. You can have a mix of rail, water, road, and air transport. And it's going to bring a bit of the central government closer to the middle belt and the north and help us decentralize better. The places we are talking about now are places that have become key in feeding Accra, right? So if we send a lot more infrastructure and concrete to those places, the green zones around Accra that must feed Accra would be taken away from the space. Now in Sawam and all those places, we've lost them. Let's go up. Let's take some infrastructure there. Let's take the land. Let's do the design. Let's service the land. Let's give embassies, let's give businesses land. Let's have a general design structure and let them come and do some of the work.
You see, you make a very good point. But you see, I think one thing that is not lost on the president is the funding for the new city.
Yes. So that's the point I'm making.
So that's where, you see, because you have determined that you need a new city.
Yeah.
So the funding for the new city should come from you. And in doing this, because to connect that new city to Accra and to all other parts of the country, the rails, my goodness, we've been trying rails for 20-something years. We've never worked on one. Even the one we did from Tema to Mpakadan is not functioning. We tried a rail, on it, a train on it. Got involved in an accident, and that was it. The point I'm making is that the president or the government may be looking at the cost of probably going up.
Yeah.
And so they look for the easy route. And consistently, the conversation, and in the some years ago when people started selling lands outside Accra, Pram and all of those things, the conversation was about a new Accra.
Yeah.
And they talked about Pram being close to the new airport, for
and
instance.
all that.
So that is what I see, that because of the funding challenges, they're looking at the easy approach. But I agree with you that if you really want to do it and if you really want to spread development, don't go to where we have our food coming from, mostly around, the greater Accra area. Unfortunately, I ask myself, we said we were going to create new regions to trigger development. We created new regions.
And development has not been triggered.
Development has not been triggered.
The development doesn't have feelings.
So this conversation, in the long term, yes. In the short term, is a no for me.
Well, you see, and eventually, even if we get there, and take this from me, I used to build cities for a living. The problem will not be the money. Eventually, somebody will come along and say, we can fund this. But the problem will not be the money. The problem will be the human attitudes and the way in which we fail to plan. That will be the problem. Even when you bring a fully planned, properly integrated city, come and put it there, somebody will bring money and say, I want my house to be here. I want my house to be there. So the personal interest will come in and interfere with law and order. That's our problem as a nation.
I think
right?
3 things will make this work: the planning, development control, general discipline.
These are things we don't have.
Yeah.
So no matter how much money we get, we will fail on those things.
Let me just add this to another story here. On Thursday, I was at the launch of an aroma of policing by former IGP Mohammed Al Hassan, and it's captured here. Ex-IGP Mohammed Al Hassan launches policing memoir, where the Chief of Staff Julius Deborah has urged the Ghana Police Service to prioritize crime prevention as the bedrock of modern policing. So the book, An Aroma of Policing, A Life of Service in Law Enforcement and Global Peacekeeping. It has 681 pages.
Oh, that's a good strong aroma.
I have read the book, and I'll bring the history lessons I learned.
Okay,
to all of you later.
I'll give you one more headline and then we go online. The Ghanaian Point: more good news ahead in mid-year budget. This is the president speaking, and he says that he'll be announcing a lot more positive developments in the mid-year budget set to be presented in August, and he's also promising to complete the new Accra Kumasi Expressway to cut travel time to 2.5 hours.
Okay. We're done with all the papers.
The Economic Times for this morning says blooming economy boosted investor confidence. Mahama has told amidst call to sustain gains. CD rebounds from world's worst to best performing currency, and Ghana to lose out on oil revenue for 2025 as global forecast price falls below $65 per barrel. That's it for the Economic Times.
Can we talk about that story about the first story you did, the first story you shared
About
the wages?
Wages, yes, we
paying
can
people
talk
by
about
the
that.
hour.
Yeah.
You know, your friend is not the only one who has been making these calls. And it's a common thing. We see it done in other economies, in other parts of the world. People are paid hourly. Somehow, it makes it easier to measure productivity and pay accordingly, right? In Ghana, we've avoided that. We've not really been fans of that. And as a result, it creates a lot of confusion around how much we pay people and how much we value the work they do. The recent Zoom Lion debate is an example where, you know, for the amount of time that these people spend sweeping, everybody's disheartened by the amount of money they are paid. And that's because we all think in monthly salaries. Okay, we don't think about productivity and paying accordingly for it. Then the new, I call him the new fair wages boss because he's actually the first ever fair wages boss. He's been saying this for a long time. I remember he invited me to one of their stakeholder engagements in Takoradi. And this was the refrain. I think it was chaired by the late Vice President Emisata at the time. This was his refrain. How do we get to pay people hourly? Is it that difficult?
Well, it depends on a lot of factors also. As a country that has been pretending to pay people for a very long time, our minimum wage can certainly not take care of people in a day. To be very honest with you. That minimum wage cannot, less than 20 cities, 18.8, that cannot take care of you for a day. So the reality is that if you want to pay people hourly, you should pay them wages that can take care of them daily. Unfortunately, it's a conversation we pretend we don't want to have, or we pretend to be having, but just not having. So look at this, the situation where somebody goes to sweep the street, and that person out of 850 Ghana cedis gets only 250 Ghana cedis. You are only telling that person not to come to work every day. It's as simple as that. You're telling that man, don't show up every day.
But if they were being paid hourly, it might have been even less than 250.
If they were being paid hourly, no. So that's why I'm saying that when it comes to hourly payments, it's not just saying pay people hourly. We should pay people hourly to be able to take care of them.
Yeah, but if you have a job that takes only 1 hour out of your day, you don't expect to make enough from that job to pay all of your bills.
Good. So this is what we are going to decide. How much do we want to pay people? So if I work for 8 hours a day, how much would that cost? And if I work 8 hours a day, it means that in other jurisdictions, when you work 8 hours a day, you're getting enough money to take care of you for, say, 2-3 days. How about our situation? If I went to work and I worked 8 hours a day and got, say, 25 Ghana cedis a day, it means I am being cheated because I need to transport myself there and back. So the conversation I say we should have, okay, is a conversation on sustainable wages. Wages that can take care of people. Not wages that ensures that people just don't want to work. So if we want to do that, so for instance, if I come in and I say, okay, you're sweeping 3 hours a day. So if you're sweeping, say, 1 hour, and I'm paying you 10 cedis a day, 10 cedis an hour, that 10 cedis an hour would translate into, say, 300 Ghana cedis if you work every day. Bingo. You decided to come and work. No problem. In that case, we are good to go. All of us would reach an agreement and say, this is how much somebody should be paid. I don't have a problem with that.
That's precisely what I'm saying. Anyway.
So I want us to have that conversation. And it must start. That would also bring about a rationalization of our job sector, for instance, and would also ensure that the casual workers are paid well, because you cannot pay somebody and the person cannot do anything with the money.